Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for the fifth and final session in this series of ESOR sustainability sessions. My name's Sarah Sheard. I'm the chair of the Sustainability Subcommittee at the ESR. I'm really delighted and very grateful to welcome our two speakers today. First of all, we have Dr. Michael Jackson, who's a paediatric radiologist from the Royal Hospital for Children and Young People in Edinburgh. He's going to speak to us about achieving the Green ID certification, talk about the scoring system and how it can promote sustainability in radiology departments from the perspective of both being a scorer for the certification scheme and also an applicant himself, and hopefully instill some confidence in those of you who are interested in starting out on the process. After Dr. Jackson has spoken to us, we will have a case presentation from Dr. Andrea Seelig, who is from the University of Medicine and Pharmacy of Craiova in Romania. And she's just going to talk about the experience of their department applying for the Green ID certification. So we'll have both talks, and then there'll be hopefully time for Q&A at the end. Any questions, please submit them into the Zoom chat, and we will look at those at the end. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Dr. Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for the opportunity to be presenting to you this afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. So my talk's called Setting the Standard, Achieving Green ID Certification in Radiology. Oh, sorry, I don't have any conflict of interest to declare, but just in the full interest of transparency, I have delivered educational talks to GE and Gerbe in the past. So in terms of the talk outline, I'll give an introduction to the Green ID certification scheme and talk you through the structure and scoring in particular. And then I'll provide some reflections on how the scheme has impacted sustainability work within my own department here at the Children's Hospital in Edinburgh. And then hopefully along the way, there'll be a few tips that will be useful when completing the application for those of you that are considering applying. So I've got an interest in art history, and I'm quite struck by the differences between these two depictions of Napoleon that I'm sure you're probably familiar with. But the reason for this slide is, as Sarah mentioned, I'm here with sort of two hats on, or two colours of cloak, if you like, because I've been involved with the ESR Sustainability Subcommittee and involved in the Green ID scheme and involved in scoring the applications. But I've also been at the other end of things as an applicant myself. So hopefully from those two perspectives, I'll be able to provide some different insights for you. And then people on horseback, I'll also mention this character that some of you may recognize, Baron Munchausen, and we'll see how he's relevant to things as we go. But back to Napoleon, he's famously got this quote: "A soldier will fight long and hard for a bit of coloured ribbon." And in some ways, that's what we're hoping the Green ID scheme will achieve, that radiology departments throughout Europe and hopefully beyond Europe will be fighting very hard to get their accreditation. But we're not, there's no military endeavor here. It's all in a good cause of trying to save the planet. And I just wanted to touch on this dimension of competition versus collaboration, because, I think in healthcare and as doctors in particular, I think we're all quite competitive sorts, and we get sort of institutionalized with all the exams that we have to take throughout training and postgraduate exams too. And I think coming out the other side of postgraduate exams, I think we sometimes still need a bit of a pat on the back or something to massage our ego, and hopefully this can fulfill that in a good way. But the schemes, although there is a competitive dimension in that you have to attain a certain standard, we're hoping that it's really not competition instead of collaboration, but actually it's a catalyst for both a bit of healthy competition between different departments, both within countries and across borders, but actually the collaboration dimension is really important, both within departments. You can't get very far on sustainability just working in isolation. And then we hope that good practice will spread between departments, and that we can get, it's not about a few departments having a gold badge. It's actually about trying to increase the standard of sustainability work in imaging departments across the board. And so the Green ID scheme has a stated ambition of being a framework for sustainability in healthcare, ensuring adherence to environmental and social responsibility standards. But yes, there is this dimension of it being a bit of a carrot to encourage good work, that we hope will motivate people to get on board and get accreditation. And so the Green ID framework is made up of 9 components. I'll talk you through those, but we're going to focus on 3 of those in particular. So there's education and training, the departmental sustainability working group, and energy consumption. So those are the 3 that I'll talk through in a bit of detail. But in addition to those, we've also got waste management, audit and governance, clinical decision support, contrast media and water usage, procurement and consumables, and the final one is travel and transportation. So the application that you'll be filling in assesses all of these areas, but the top 3 are particularly important. So those are considered the mandatory categories from which you have to get some scoring to get accreditation. So to achieve certification, departments need to demonstrate actions in these 3 that are highlighted currently: education, training, the sustainability working group, energy consumption, and then ideally get 4 additional points from other categories. So you will get accreditation if all your points are in these 3, but ideally we are hoping that there's a range of sustainability activity in all 9 categories. And then if you get 10 points, then you've reached the magic number to get the baseline accreditation. But there are 8 strata or levels. So level 1 is 10 points to 19, level 2 for 20 to 29, and so on up to level 8. The certificate that you get issued with is valid for 3 years, but we will, I've got my ESR subcommittee hat on and saying we will accept reapplications 6 months after the initial certificate or application. So if you think that you've done some good sustainability work that's maybe not reflected in an initial application, then you can put in for scoring again in 6 months' time. And all of these applications are processed and double scored by the ESR Sustainability Subcommittee, and it goes without saying that you don't score your own sector. Then in terms of the evidence that we're looking for, there are some categories where you will need to, there's a little type box where you need to put in some explanation of what has been going on. And I think each box does give a fairly clear indication of what's required. For the sort of type in boxes, we're not really after a long essay. It's just sort of short answer type format. But as well as those entry text boxes, there are opportunities to upload photographs, and you don't need to get medical photography in. They're just ones from your phone that are absolutely fine, as long as we can see what you're hoping that we can see. But just with that little caveat to obviously avoid any patient identifiers or confidential information. And then we're aware that in undertaking this scoring, that we get applications from a wide range of different centres in terms of the location and the size of department. And so some scoring may feel sort of, more in the direction of big departments with a lot of resources available to them. We do, as far as possible, try to adapt the scoring so that small departments aren't disadvantaged, or likewise that large departments aren't either. But if you think that you're sort of at a disadvantage for reasons specific to your centre, then just a little brief explanation in the text can be helpful. And then a good resource to make you aware of is the Green ID Toolkit. So this is available on the website, the link's at the top there. Now, we've got resources for all 9 of these categories that are scored. I would emphasize at the moment it is work in progress. So some areas have more resources available than others, but we're collectively working to improve that as we go forward. So hopefully there will be pointers available if you're struggling to know what to do. These areas will develop and become more voluminous as time progresses. So hopefully that is a useful resource to tap into. Okay, so we'll move on to the application form. I'm just going to focus on the 3 mandatory categories that I've mentioned because there isn't time to go through all of them in a 20-minute talk. But looking at education and training, the requirement is that staff members have attended or watched sustainability sessions at recent ESR meetings or have completed sustainability educations from the European School of Radiology. Oh, hang on, this sounds like a fix. So is it some sort of scam that we're just trying to increase our own numbers? But no, other relevant societies are allowed as well. And then a recurring theme for the application is also that some of these may feel a little bit like surrogate markers of sustainable activity, but we know it's quite difficult to reliably assess the energy usage and so on. So some of these are sort of the kind of things you'd expect to see in a department in which sustainability is taken seriously and actively being worked on. And then an example, but it's not completely, just a tick box exercise. So this is me giving an update to our department on the previous sustainability session. And then off the back of that, we had been talking about couch roll for a little while, but Laurie Ramsey did a great talk pointing out how much paper tissue can be saved if you don't use the paper couch roll needlessly. Obviously, there are situations where it is appropriate to use it, but actually it's not actually an infection control measure in itself. And off the back of that, we modified our practice. So we do keep a little bit at the pillow end just for comfort, but we wipe the surface clean between patients, and although there are exceptions, in general, we're making some savings on that. So I think that's an example of the education, feeling like it is having an impact. Then next one is the Departmental Sustainability Working Group. So the requirement is there's an imaging specific sustainability group or committee with a diverse representation of staff roles to reflect the operations of the department, such as radiologists, radiographers, nurses, clinical scientists, and managers and administrators, if you can get them on board. And then this is one where actually, sorry, I thought we had a different category here with I think my slides changed because I thought it says a percentage number rather than oh no, sorry, I'm getting my slides mixed up. I think there's another one coming up with percentage wise. But for this one, we're looking for a range of representation. So you haven't just got radiologists or radiographers, ideally that you're getting a team engagement across the board. And this is where Baron Munchausen comes in, because prior to the Green ID scheme, we didn't have a committee of this nature. And then so when we were looking at the requirements for the pilot scheme, this prompted us to establish one within our own department. And so it sort of just kind of came about as if by magic that because of this scheme, we suddenly have a scheme and a working group which is actually able to work collaboratively to move forward on different fronts. And then as part of the sustainability working group, we're also looking to promote work both within the department and beyond. And so looking for work to be publicised, and we've got an example of that in our sort of our directorate includes imaging, but also anaesthetics and theatres. So the newsletter goes out to all of those. So we were talking about some work we've done cutting down on our MRI sequences, and then I've been talking about a project I'm involved in trying to introduce automated shutdowns, and that's going in the next newsletter. So these are things where, again, in itself, it's a sort of surrogate marker, but actually promoting the work does get traction, management get interested, and so it's worth doing. And then the third mandatory category is energy consumption. So we've got we're encouraging departments to display posters encouraging sustainability or sustainable energy use throughout the department, and then the imaging equipment should be turned off overnight, and you can do it the old-fashioned way of just turning it off, or if you've got automated shutdown procedures, then that's great as well. This is a pilot scheme, so we are aware that this list of modalities didn't include nuclear medicine that somebody has pointed out to us. So we are receptive to feedback. It is sort of work in progress that we're sort of just bedding it in. So there may be other areas that we need to look at just tweaking, but the committee is definitely receptive and listening. So we will take suggestions on board as we go forwards. Then still on the energy consumption. So this is one where I know our application, we probably didn't score brilliantly on this one. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning is something we don't sort of have direct control over, because there's a sort of a hospital management team, and we're trying to do what we can to get things turned off, but that's proving tricky. So we know that sometimes things can be a little bit beyond your control, but we are, we're dripping, and then we hope that, for a future application that we may finally crack that one. And then for diagnostic workstations are switched off overnight and at weekends. That's something where we have been inspired by, well, it was actually a talk that Andrew Rockwell gave at ECR that got us going on this. And then locally, we only got started earlier this year because of some resistance that needed to be overcome, but we're now spread that beyond our own radiology department to our departments, our radiology departments elsewhere within NHS Lothian here in Edinburgh, and then also across into other departments. So somewhere where the work has originated within radiology, but we're actually hoping to have a bigger impact beyond radiology as well. So we've saved nearly 700,000 hours of idle time. It's only on 711 devices at the moment, but we're hoping to get it into the thousands, because we think there are about 20,000 computers that might be suitable. So that's work in progress, but this was set off really from engagement with ECR and ESR. Then finally, on the energy consumption, active engagement with service engineers and vendors. So this is something we are doing, but whether it saved any energy yet, I don't know. But I think this is, the process needs to start somewhere, and so actually, sort of engagement with engineers and vendors is an important part of the process. So depending on what you can document for that, you may get some points. And then we know that, and this again was one that we fell down on in our application, is that who the power grid that your hospital is supplied by may well be beyond your control within radiology, and so don't get too frustrated if your hospital isn't powered by solar panels or wind turbines. But the bar has been set high on purpose, so that you are raising it with management and saying, well, could we have solar panels on the roof? What about getting a wind turbine? So that's something that we've been doing. It hasn't happened yet, but we'll keep plugging away. And I think the recognition of these more ambitious targets is an important part of it, even if when you're going through your application, you go, oh, I don't have the power to put solar panels on the roof, but you might, you have the power to advocate for them. And then just finally on the energy stuff, there are methods in place to monitor and optimize power consumptions. And then here, various different approaches are acceptable. So, but hopefully, if you're not in a position to do this currently, this will act as a driver to get you going. And obviously, monitoring power consumption doesn't do anything, but ideally optimizing it is what we're after. So and if you are able to produce robust evidence that you have saved energy, then that's fantastic. And you can see it's a category where there are quite a lot of points available if you can produce good evidence on that. And then finally, consideration given to the demands of energy for image storage. So this is something we're currently working on. I got a registrar to look at this for CT heads, and we identified that there are, things like motion artifact degraded studies today really need to be stored indefinitely if you've got a good quality one as well. And then these sort of got redundant sets that have, just seem to get put into storage for reasons that aren't apparent to me. So this is something we're working on. We haven't quite got there yet, but the scheme has, focused our mind into looking into this. So that's definitely a start. And then I'm going to very, very briefly talk about one that was not in the mandatory 3, but contrast media and water usage is obviously important. And then just another one where in the UK, we don't currently have access to a recycling scheme. So we know there are some, for a scheme that's sort of Europe-wide and hopefully beyond Europe, we know there are going to be variations in practice across different countries that might make it challenging to tick every single box, but that's why there are lots of boxes and lots of points available. So don't get disheartened if there's a box that for whatever reason you can't score points on. And then someone's also pointed out that should we be including radiopharmaceutical management in this, which we think is a good point. So there are areas that may get modified as we go forward. It's just been the pilot scheme so far, so we know that there's a little bit of sort of bedding in, but I've talked you through, this is the application form. Obviously, I do not expect you to read these, but it's just to show you the size of it in total. So we've gone through those 4 pages, and we've also touched on that one, and then that's the thing in its entirety. So although that is a rapid run through, you can see that the form in itself is not huge. Obviously, it can reflect a huge amount of effort that has gone to get these boxes ticked off, but the actual process of putting the application in is not unduly onerous, I don't think. And with smartphone photos or whatever it is, you're able to pretty rapidly accumulate the evidence you need to tick a lot of the categories. And so it's a great pleasure to highlight centres that have already got accreditation via the pilot scheme. I won't say specific centre names for fear of pronouncing them wrong, but congratulations to Germany, Malta, Russia, France, Germany again, Netherlands, Portugal and Turkey, Denmark, Germany again, Netherlands again, Portugal again, Switzerland, United Kingdom, woohoo! And currently these are our highest rated centres in Italy, Netherlands, Spain and Switzerland. But you can see that the highest haven't got to 8. So even those centres that can probably feel a bit smug about what they've been doing so far, there's still work to be done. And this process I mentioned of trying to collaborate with other centres to share good practice is really the intention of the scheme, not to just feel smug. So in summary, I think the standard has been set high, but it is achievable. And I feel that the paperwork involved is not unduly onerous. It does take a bit of effort, but I think it's not unmanageable. I would again emphasize teamwork and collaboration both within and between departments as being the real core to success in sustainability work, and that the objective is promoting meaningful change in practice within imaging departments, not a tick box exercise. So that's, and yeah, most importantly of all, good luck to everyone if you're applying. I think I'm happy to take questions, but I think they'll be the other side of the next presentation. But thanks very much for listening.
Thanks so much, Michael. That was really helpful and interesting. And I was particularly interested in how actually filling in the application form made you make changes on the spot, which I think is something that other departments who've applied will also reflect. Like, it's a really useful opportunity, and there's a sort of opportunity to score a point by doing it there and then, but actually making meaningful change at the same time. So any questions for Dr. Jackson, please pop them on the chat now, and we, without further ado, will move on to our next talk from Dr. Selig about her experience of applying for the Green ID.
Hi, hello everybody. Thank you for your kind introduction, Dr. Sherd. So today I want to, after Dr. Jackson's excellent overview, I'd like to show you how we approach the Green ID system in our department in a very practical, step-by-step way. So my presentation today is really about getting started. One second. Oh, okay. Can you see my slides? Okay, perfect. So I have no disclosures other than the fact that I am a member of the ESR Sustainability Subcommittee. So a little bit of context. I am from Craiova, Romania, a country in which sustainability is still being developed, especially in healthcare. So as you can see here, Romania was last in the EU for recycling in 2022. So unfortunately, sustainability is not something that we typically focus on in our daily medical practice. But today I want to show you how we started and how you can start too, even though it feels like maybe it's too hard, because that's actually how we felt at the beginning, given the circumstances. So about our department, we are a clinical and teaching department within the University of Medicine and Pharmacy of Craiova. And education is an important part of our work alongside patient care. We recently applied for the Green ID application certificate, and even though the result is not out yet, I'm optimistic because I've seen the process from the inside as being a scorer myself. So as you've seen in Dr. Jackson's presentation, the Green ID framework is divided into 9 categories, and you've also learned about the scoring system. So I'll try to focus on each category one by one. So first one is education and training, and here the form looks at whether staff members have attended sustainability sessions. So what we did, we shared ESOR sustainability resources with the team, and several colleagues watched the sessions, ESOR sessions or ECR sessions. So if you'd like to start here, just start by simply sending 1 or 2 free ESOR sustainability courses to your team. You can also include sustainability briefly during a meeting, and also encourage one of your colleagues to summarize something they've watched, because this usually sparks interest in others. But just keep things simple, and don't forget that education is the easiest place to begin. Moving to Departmental Sustainability Working Group. So here this category looks at whether you have a sustainability group. if you have basic reporting system in place, and whether you are part of a wider sustainability initiative. So what we did in our department, we formed a group, a small group of 3 members, and then we discussed simple improvement ideas and also shared the updates with the staff. If you'd like to get started here, all you need is 2-3 motivated people. It can be anyone who's interested in sustainability. It's better to include diverse roles and then just share updates at staff meetings or by email. And if you have national or institutional initiative, then it's great if you can connect with them. So you don't need a big committee, all you need is a small group with shared ideas and simple communication. Energy consumption. The first point here is about displaying posters that encourage sustainability energy use. So we displayed such posters in our department. We used existing ones and also created some simple ones, and then we placed them in areas where everybody can see them. And if you'd like to get started here, you can start by downloading some posters from professional societies. EUSOBI has a really nice one, but you can also create your own in your local language and place them where people can see them, of course. So just start with awareness because it makes a big difference. Next 3 points here look at something very simple. So are we actually switching things off when we don't use them? In our department, all imaging equipment is turned off at the end of the shift, except for the MRI, which is placed in low power mode. And then we have a member that checks from time to time that the workstations are turned off. This happens also for lights and AVA seats. So if you'd like to get started here, create or keep a simple end-of-day checklist. You can assign responsibility as we did, and then you can take advantage of stickers and posters and use them as reminders if they're placed near workstations, for example. And if you can, opt for automated power of systems because, of course, it's easier this way. And the last point here on energy consumption. So here the form looks at whether you actively work with the vendors in order to optimize energy use, whether you have a renewable energy supplier, whether you have any ways to monitor power consumption, and whether you have a protocol for efficient image storage. So here, the only point that we cover is the manual shutdown check. But some ideas for you would be to start by asking vendors for energy saving options. Also, you can create a checklist to track shutdown. When clinically appropriate, you can try to reduce your sequences, so just shorten your protocols. And then if resources allow, you can opt for centralized monitoring. Moving to waste management. So here we have 3 simple questions. Do you have multiple waste streams? Do you have recycled bins? And have you taken any additional action in order to reduce wastage? So in our department, we have separate bins in clinical areas, especially in injection rooms. Then we set up recycled bins in waiting and shared areas because we didn't have them before. And then we moved to waste prevention measures. So what we did, we switched to digital patient documentation. Our reports and images are directly sent to patients, so no CDs or printouts unless the patient asks for it. And we've also reduced our glove use, mainly to IV access. If you'd like to get started here, you can start by adding clearly labeled bins in clinical and waiting areas. You can use simple posters to show what goes where. You can switch to digital documentation. You can also reduce glove use and prefer usables whenever you can. And then You can also work with vendors in order to for take back or recycling options. And you can also track which areas generate most waste and target those first. So I think a good organization can solve half of the waste problem. Contrast media and water usage. So here the form looks at whether you have displayed posters that encourage sustainable water use, whether you use water instead of oral contrast for abdominal imaging, and whether you adjust your dose, contrast dose individually. So in our department, we displayed such posters that encourage alcohol-based hand rub. We sometimes use neutral oral contrast when it comes to enterography exams, but we still use positive oral contrast. But we always adjust doses based on patient weight and clinical indication. So if you want to start, place posters on water saving, then you can review recent resources on oral contrast use. And I suggest you start with the ESR contrast agents ebook. You can define simple internal rules like when to use neutral and when positive oral contrast is still necessary. You can standardize IV contrast dose and then write it in a written protocol and share that protocol with your team. And of course, you should reevaluate that protocol once in a while to be sure it's updated evidence. The next points here. So the questions in this category here are: do you recycle unused contrast media? Do you collect residues separately, contrast residues separately? And do you have any ways to prevent contrast media from entering the wastewater? So we don't actually check anything here, but there's one thing that we do, and we do it well. We minimize leftover contrast from the start, or at least we try to minimize as much as we can. So some ideas for you would be to prepare contrast only after the patient is ready. Use one vial at a time. You can check the daily schedule to optimize contrast usage toward the end of the shift. You can also discuss with suppliers about take back of unused contrast. And even though post-scan urine contrast capture systems exist, they are rarely implemented yet. So this is just for you to keep an eye for future feasibility. Moving to audit and governance. This is really simple. So all you have to do is just perform some internal audits on whatever sustainability topic you can. Well, in our case, we did some checks like verifying the correct use of waste stream and also verifying if the workstations are shut down at the end of the shift. We collected some info and then we shared the results during a team discussion. If you'd like to get started in this category, just pick a simple topic, then track that with a simple yes or no checklist in order to collect data, share findings with your team, then try a small improvement and recheck. And if you write everything down, it counts as audit evidence. And if you'd like template that you can use, I've created one, and you can just scan this QR code here and it will link to the model I've created, and you can adapt for your own department. Clinical decision support. So this category is all about aligning imaging with clinical context, or simply said, making sure the right exam is done for the right patient. So in our department, imaging requests are accepted only with a clear written recommendation from the clinician, even if we're talking about exams that don't use radiation. And then if we feel like an investigation won't add value, we discuss it with the clinician. If you want to get started here, you can start by promoting ESR iGuide to clinicians. You can do that by displaying simple referral tips or even the QR code of the iGuide in clinical areas where they can see them. I think multidisciplinary meetings are really important here, and also feedback discussions between clinicians and radiologists can have a huge impact. Eighth category, procurement and consumables. So here we look at how we buy, how we store, and how we use our materials. In our department, we have someone that checks from time to time expiry dates to minimize wastage. I've also said that we've reduced our glove use to IV access only. And even though we don't have refurbished equipment from 2013 since our opening, all our imaging equipment has been kept in use with regular maintenance. So if you want to get started here, just assign one person as we did. That person can track expiry dates and also which items are rarely used in order to reduce the quantity in the next orders. You can ask vendors about repair and refurbishment options. Also, you can ask them about packaging minimization, and don't forget to include environmental criteria when comparing supplier offers. So buy smart, store well, and use responsibly. And the last one, which is travel and transportation. Here we're talking about how we can reduce unnecessary travel, both for staff and for patients. In our department, remote reporting is available, which helps a lot. And then our team discussions are held only when everybody is at the hospital, so they don't have to come just for the meeting. And as I said before, imaging results and the images are accessible online, so the patients don't need to come just to pick them up. The ideas here would be to use virtual meetings, to try and schedule follow-up scans on the same day as other appointments. Also, you can offer remote work days for reporting. And for staff mobility, you can encourage bicycle use and arrange shared transport for congresses or other events. So here, just take advantage of the virtual meetings and also be careful at patient scheduling. Try to make it smart. And before I close, I want to say that I truly believe this certificate is for any department, no matter how small or how limited the resources. I think if you apply, you can achieve a level of you can achieve a certain level of certification. So you don't need to have everything ready before you start. You just have to start small, apply now, and you can build from there. Focus on what you already do well. Just create awareness. Don't do this alone. It's easier and also more fun if your colleagues are involved. Always document what you do, and don't forget that sustainability is not just about saving energy or reducing waste. It's more about improving our practice and caring for future generations. And I like to close with one of my favorite quotes that says, "A society goes great when old men plant trees, the shade of which they know they will never sit in." And with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention. And I really hope that everybody who's watching us today will apply for the certification. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. That was really comprehensive, but just really positive to see how much, I think obviously you're doing some things before which you realised that you could add to your form and be sort of given some credit for, the practices that are already in place, but also I just got this image of your department as a real hive of activity, sort of putting sustainable things into place. So thank you very much. I hope that was really inspiring to everyone else who was watching, because it was to me. Great. So I think we have 15 minutes left, and I can see that questions have been coming through. So what I will do is I think hopefully some of them are very short ones. So if we just go through them in order, some of them we might be able to are just sort of quite technical questions about Green ID, which I might just be able to answer. Otherwise, I will put them ones that are more for discussion and where we want some ideas from our speakers. I'll put them out. So I hope that works for everyone. So the first question is from Isabel Redenius. Is the Green ID certification intended only for hospitals, or is it also applicable to radiology departments in general? I would say from my perspective, when we were, and I speak on behalf of all of us in this session, that we really tried to be really mindful of the diversity of departments, clinics, community clinics, giant tertiary teaching hospitals, when we made the questions, and tried to make sure that they were inclusive and everyone was able to answer and score points. I don't know if Andrea or Michael have anything to add to that, but I would like to say it's for everyone. And if it's not, or if you have any feedback from the process, we really want to hear it, because it's important for us to make it better in the next iteration. Any comments from Andrew or Michael?
Yeah, I just want to add that, as I said in my presentation, I think it's for any department, because we are not a hospital, as I was showing you in our presentation. We are a medium-sized department, so if we could do it, then I think any department can do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think for one or two categories, larger centres are maybe at slight advantage, but I think overall the scoring has been structured, and those involved in actually doing the scoring try to have a little bit of wriggle room to accommodate the size of the centre. And as I said in my talk, if there are categories where you think you would like to be doing something, but it's beyond your scale, just a little brief explanation in that can be helpful.
I also think that where some large organisations have advantages, also trying to get change and speak to management in sort of giant hospital organisations can be more difficult, and perhaps smaller institutions might have a little bit more sort of ability to make changes. So be very interesting to see as people start applying. The next question is from Georgina Blenkinsop, and that was specifically to Dr. Jackson about discussing the swim work, but I think we'll leave that as a sort of individual contact if it's about.
I've sent an email on that already.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. Okay, good. Very responsive. Jerry Lowe, is it correct there's no fee for application? Yes, that's absolutely correct. There's no fee, and also all of these talks and lots of other sustainability materials are available on the ESR website, which are also available freely, so that people can engage with that. Okay, this is a really good one for both of our speakers. From an anonymous poster, how do we convince departmental management that Green ID accreditation is worth investing in? Ultimately, money talks. Is there somewhere where the cost-saving data is easily accessible to justify and motivate buy-in to sustainability? Michael, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Excuse me. So although the process of green accreditation does involve someone having to spend a bit of time on the keyboard accruing the evidence, but basically I think pretty much every category that we're scoring on will probably save money. There might be one or two exceptions, but it's really a win-win. And I alluded to Laurie Ramsey's talk from the previous session with the couch roll, and she was finding resistance to getting that implemented in her local centre, but then got the there's like a cost-cutting champion within her trust that was her greatest ally in helping drive that forward. So actually, for the areas which are most of these areas will save money, so it's a kind of a no-brainer, and it's kind of the frustration of all sustainability work is that this should just be happening already and for the last 20-30 years, and likewise with the making sure imaging is done appropriately is obviously on board with all college or local certification board guidance anyway. So really much of what we're advocating with the Green ID scheme is just good practice, both resource management and even if you're not interested in saving the planet, you'll save your hospital some money by turning the lights off. So there is a kind of a it's easy to say, oh yeah, it's it just makes sense because this is the big battle of sustainability, that it's stuff that should be happening and is not, and within your own center, kind of finding colleagues and other supportive people who can kind of break a chink in the management armor to sort of get some leverage is helpful. And then for me, I found that once we'd successfully got accreditation, then management kind of go, oh, and they're sort of more on board with things like people spending time to do the committee. So that's kind of growing because it's now got management support. And so there is I was talking about Baron Munchausen pulling himself out from the swamp. There is a slight element of if you build it, they will come. So you kind of have to kind of generate that initial momentum or critical mass to help get things going. But in general, we should be knocking at open doors, because nearly everything in the scheme that's good for the planet is also good for hospital managers' spreadsheets as well.
Thank you. Yeah, all very true. Like you said, it should be an easy sell. Andrea, do you have anything to add to that question?
No, not really. I agree with what Dr. Jackson said. And in our case, it was easy because our imaging department coordinator is Professor Iona Ghionea, who happens to be a member of this committee. So we didn't have to, I don't know, it was easy to implement everything that we've tried to implement because she agreed with everything. So it wasn't that hard from our perspective.
Good. Well, it's all about finding the right person who's sympathetic and able to pull some levers. Okay, so next question from Stefano Rizzo. As staff members, do you indicate radiologists and radiographers are also administrative staff? I mean, Andrea, do you want to sort of talk about this? Because obviously you've had a lot of experience recently sort of forming these groups and things, and talk about the importance of sort of involving different staff roles.
Sure. So in our department, the group is formed of 3 members. So it's me, and I'm a resident. I'm still in training. And then there's the coordinator of the imaging department, and there's another person who is involved, who is a technician. And I think it's better if we have people with different roles involved, because everybody could understand like what they have to do in their certain area of interest. So yeah, I think it's important to involve everybody in your department, but So different roles.
Yeah, I was just thinking about your initiative to sort of stop patients from having to come in and collect CDs and reports. Presumably that was not something that was implemented directly by the radiologist. That was done by some administrative staff or IT who have expertise in that
Yes,
area.
yeah,
So
the
you
IT
need-
department did that, yeah.
Exactly. It's sort of, yeah. As an example, the everyone has something to offer. Thank you. Okay, so next question, two questions. Apologies if I don't pronounce your name. Hanan Solomon Gavefal. Hello. Is there any specific thing for sustainability for breast imaging and mammography? I don't know if either of the speakers have anything to add to that. I don't think at the moment on the ESR toolkit we have any sort of very much specialty specific. I suspect there might be some literature, but I'm not a breast radiologist, so I'm not aware. But I think it'll be out there, and I mean, hopefully that's something we can expand into as our toolkit is built into sort of subspecialty specific information, although quite a lot of things are quite generalizable about sort of intervention and sort of plain film radiography and things. There's quite a lot of information out there. And then there's another question from the same asker. Is using cloud for archiving considered sustainable or green radiology? Anyone wants to take this on? Otherwise I can.
Well,
I know the answer.
Okay. All right, so you can put me right, Sarah. But so my understanding is that if you've got robust cloud storage, it's better to do that than having everything done locally on site. There probably is variability in the energy practices of different cloud storage companies or service providers. So it doesn't end necessarily with saying, oh, we're doing cloud, so everything's like, okay. Sarah will probably add in on that, but I think definitely the element of just examining your data storage practice, and this is something where I've definitely got colleagues who know a lot more about this in my department. So I think trying to make sure you match up the expertise appropriately is important. But there definitely are ample opportunities to save energy by instituting good practice in this area. But yeah, I'll let Sarah chip in.
Well, no, I think that was the perfect answer, really. I mean, yeah, the short answer is yes. The long answer is it's quite complicated. But I think the good thing is that I would say a couple of years ago, we didn't really know very much about the impact of image storage in general, whereas now we're starting to get some clear numbers and ideas about these things. But I guess one of the issues, and it's not very generalizable because different countries are sort of governed by different data laws and patient confidentiality and sort of all of the data protection things sort of add some complexity to storing sort of medical data, which is not necessarily applicable to other things. But on the whole, the cloud storage is the lowest energy. But also, looking at that study that you did, Michael, just actually storing fewer reconstructions and a lean image storage approach is really valuable as well. So let's move on. We've got a few more. I don't know if we've got time, but I don't know if we have any scope to overrun. I'm looking to the office if that's possible or not. So we've talked about the sustainability lectures. There was a question about the sustainability lectures. They are available. They're freely available via the toolkit. Please go and have a look. There's lots available. And then, there's a question from Christiane Colmo. How should it be proved that all computer and workstations have been shut down each day? To assign this task to a specific person, not to write it down daily in a paper or digital form. I don't know if anyone wants to take that one. It's an interesting question about how you administer these things.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. So I started off on the shutdown of computers when not in use with some little I don't know whether I can show you one of them here. There's a little remember to turn off so I don't know how well that's showing up. but was soon finding that I think it slightly improved our shutdown rate, but not substantially. So the automated solution has been really good. In some ways, it feels like a little bit of a con, because you say, "Oh, look how much energy we've saved," and it's like, well, if people just turn their computers off, as they should, we wouldn't have got any of these impressive figures. But it does help with the quantification, and it is more reliable than getting people to little stickers or reminders or whatever it is. And then you also do get the benefit of some data available to demonstrate the practice. So I would certainly advocate it for those reasons. But if you can get people to be good and turn the computers off at the end of the day, and whether someone can monitor that, I don't know. But yeah, the automated solution has some advantages.
Andrea, do you have any comments about how you do this in your department?
Sure. So as Michael said, the automated system would be the easy way to solve this. In our department, we don't have one. So yeah, we assigned one person that checks from time to time, not every day, because this would be too much. But from time to time, somebody checks at the end of the day if the workstations are shut down. And yeah, we placed some posters in some areas near workstations, as Michael showed us, to remember people to shut down their devices. And we've seen improvements. So yeah, this is a tip, I'd say, to place some posters as reminders, and yeah, maybe assign somebody at the beginning to check, and then maybe people will just follow this trend.
Thanks, Andrea. I mean, I certainly, from our experience, our hospital, which is a big 3 hospitals site trust in London, implemented an automatic software program that switches off all the PCs in the whole hospital, so non-clinical PCs, out of hours and at weekends, which, the scale of it and the money that was saved from that is enormous. It's sort of hundreds of thousands of pounds a year from power. But we encountered, so that was very nice because it was done by the IT department. We were somewhat involved, and we're still working with them, because our problem was that the radiology workstations count as clinical equipment, so they weren't automatically covered by that scheme, although it's possible to do it. So we're having to work quite closely with them to now roll it out into the reporting rooms. But I hopefully it will be, we're just piloting at the moment, so hopefully that will work well. But it's been an uphill battle, and there's always something you think, oh, this is great, we don't have to worry about switching them off. And I mean, I've always found that asking people to do it, there's a lot of sort of people who are very much of the understanding that you mustn't switch off these computers because they might need to do security updates overnight. So you're always battling behaviors and myths and things. Anyway, yeah, so automated solutions are very much the way forward, but they're not always simple themselves to implement. But hopefully once they're running, work well. Thank you. There's one more question, which is about will we be continuing to offer webinars on green radiology and sustainable practice, which is the perfect opportunity for us to say that yes, we will. I think we're going to have 4 more sessions in 2026. We're just finalising what they're going to be on and when they're going to be, but please keep your eyes peeled, because we'll be revisiting some topics, but expanding and exploring some new sort of areas in sustainable radiology. And it's all very fast moving because we're all sort of learning at the same time. So it's exciting times. So we've run over by 4 minutes, but I'd just like to close by thanking Dr. Jackson and Dr. Selig so much for both of your talks. They were really insightful and inspiring, I think, certainly. And thank you so much for all of the people who've joined us for this session today, and I really hope you take lots away with you. Look forward to seeing your Green ID applications, and I hope, yeah, if there's any feedback from this or feedback from the scheme in general, we really do want to hear from you. So please get in touch via the ESR office. Thank you very much.